Hey listeners, welcome to a brand new episode of the Herschel Saldana Show, where we discuss with people who are doing great in their career in the It's All About People session. In this podcast episode, we have a special guest who is a corporate trainer and has experiences in various fields and industries. And is also going to launch his new book in the upcoming months known as Collaborators Win. So, we welcome Madhavan sir to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Saldana. That's a nice welcome from your side, and really looking forward to this episode. And I'm sure that I'll be able to share a lot of good knowledge for the public at large who's going to view this video later. Thank you so much for the nice welcome.
Yes, sir. Sir, and collaborators win. The title itself tells that it's about collaborating or maybe getting people together on a single project or working together. So, can you tell more about what your book is all about?
Thank you for asking a wonderful question. To start with, that was a beautiful gateway towards people to understand what is collaborators win. The name of the book synonyms in terms of people understanding. So when you say collaboration, it means a multiple. So, like one person with another person, a group into another group, or teams into another teams, or probably a location into another location, or countries into countries. So, what happens is it's really dynamic as an environment when you talk about collaborators. So I've been a person who's witness to this particular atmosphere in one of the famous giant of IT information technology company where I spent 11 years plus. And I could see literally in front of my eyes the type of difficulties they were facing. Because not only these people were part of a particular location, but they had to service their clients across various, even smaller towns, sometimes very remote areas. I've seen people go to Kashmir. I've seen people go to Srinagar for those government projects and has to install networkings and all this. So such amount of remote places. So what happens is the whole uh, the whole thing boils down in terms of how do you going to communicate with this sort of people. So the first part is understanding. So when you say understanding, it's not about two people saying hello and introducing themselves, but getting together and the management who's leading them, setting them nicely, introducing them, making them into a certain comfort zones, and slowly taking them forward to form a team where the team leaders are decided across not only for the current teams who come inside, but also from across in terms of people who are going to be part of this collaboration. And that's the first start. And I'm sure over a period of time, as they start working in the project, might be a month's time, the nuances in terms of the behavioral patterns of people, in terms of who's aggressive, who's less aggressive, who's not talking much, but somebody could be an introvert, somebody could be an extrovert, how they deal with it. So, effectively seeing all this, I said, let me use this as an opportunity to bring out to the market something which is very useful because it's important that people like me who's got 36 plus years experience across four different industries and seven different companies. I said I should try and give back the knowledge back to the society. That's my dream, incidentally. So it's no point in saying that, oh, I'm experienced, but it's very important that you give back to society because by giving back to society those nuances, you make the society and the people who are looking at it or people who are going to value this are going to take much more in terms of going forward. So that's one of the primary reasons this collaborators book came inside the picture. Why did I mention the win word out of the collaborators is all about? It's a pretty positive statement where when you're going to work together, you're going to win. Why? Point one. It's not about your single mind. It's not about your single hand. Everybody has got two hands. Everybody's got a mind. But when you're going to work with multiple people, multiple teams, multiple groups, there are multiplications of minds in terms of thought process, mind shares, and most important, there's so many hands to do the work in terms of physical aspect. The most important, you get the beautiful environment and everything is going safe. That's one of the primary reasons this particular book came out in terms of thought process. And just add up before probably you might take me to the next level of this process in terms of the book. One of the primary reasons I wanted to write this book is to share my complete years of experience in terms of having worked with four different industries. I'm an expert in the field of fast moving consumer goods. I spent 21 years there. I spent close to 21 months with a hyper supermarket and 2 years in finance very early in my career. When I was just about 7, 8 years in terms of experience, in terms of my life. And the most important and the last and most critical part, why this actually the book came out, was my time spent with the huge company, the information technology company, based out of India, but covering close to some 60 countries across the world. That's where this particular idea of the word collaborators, when you collaborate, you win. I was very confident to say this because I know pretty well when you work together, you are in a winning situation.
Yes, sir. That's a very great reason that you're helping the large crowd in terms of sharing your knowledge and experiences over the past in through your book. And you have also told that in collaborators, people of different background and also of different age, they meet up and they work on a project. And if you see the younger generation, we have an age gap. Like if you see the top level management, they are experienced and they have their own set of mindsets. And the younger generation, they are new to it and they also have their own set of mindset. So while working in a project, how these like high level managers can communicate effectively with the juniors who are just beginning in their career?
That's a brilliant question, Saldana. I really enjoyed myself when you were actually telling the question. I was just listening to you very carefully. Thank you so much for bringing out beautifully this lovely question to us, stepping forward to the next set of how you take it forward. Because when you say collaboration, we talk about multiple people. So when we said multiple people, I never defined what sort of people, but the question is going to make me now do it. Yes, you're right, perfectly. It's not going to be a case of a person who's 2 years experience, a person who's 20 years experience, a person of 15 years experience, a 5 years experience. It's going to be everybody. It's about the skill. And when you're talking about a project, it's about the areas which is required in terms of, might be a developer might be needed where the experience could be just about 2 years. Might be somebody who have a little bit of information, somebody like an architect. Uh, we are talking about in terms of the person contributing with certain amount of experience. Might be the guy's got some 6 to 8 years of experience. And you get into the next level where a manager is involved in terms of managing his team, plus coordinating for his team with the collaborating of the higher levels of teams inside those 20, 30 people who are collaborating. Might be the guy might possess 10 to 12 years. The best of it is all sort of all these 20, 30 people. Out of these four leaders who are representing each of the teams, could be the guy, could be a general manager, or could be a delivery head. I'm talking the perspective high in terms of information technology. And because one of the primary reasons this book came is because of information technology. But if I look at the perspective in terms of the industries across, because I worked across four industries, it's about any industry. We always have these sort of a segmented experience of people working together, because you always somebody who has to implement it, you have somebody who has to plan it, you have somebody who has to validate it, you have somebody who has to supervise it, you have somebody who has to manage it, and somebody has to completely take it out in terms of saying it, yes, it's all fine, and stamp the authority, saying that let's go ahead and deliver it. So I'm talking about the different range with the different positions, the different actual resource each of the persons in terms of making it richer. So it is not going to be easy. It's not going to be an icing of the cake. The guy is coming new, obviously 2 years experience. You go into a shell. Somebody, the general manager comes and talks in the meeting. 20 other people are going to listen to them. The general manager says, "Oh, can do this, can do this." The guy has 2 years. My God, he's going to get to the shell. He's not going to open up, and it's so imperative of the seniors to make the others comfortable. This is what I always love the word, which I'm going to tell it right now, is the creation of the environment. When we talk about environment, it is about so useful for everybody. You feel it virtually. You feel it. To be honest, I had to appreciate you. The environment you have created here is brilliant. What I'm talking now, credit could be because I know the subject, but I can tell you the way you asked the question, the way you made me comfortable in the environment, the way you planned it beautifully. It's just about those basics which creates the lack of doubts in terms of moving forward. It's about the environment. To be very honest here, Saldana, it's not about the age and experience. It's about the environmental factor. A 2 years guy could be as good as a general manager who's 25 years experience. It's all about the brains and how do you apply it, how do you use it, and the next important part is the clarity. When the top level is going to give the clarity, it's not the question of 2 years and 5 years and 8 years and 10 years. It's about how much people have understood. It's also imperative on the management part to check before they start the work in terms of the understanding capabilities of people, and also validate the capabilities in terms of they trying to demonstrate more like a pilot in terms of the collaboration before it starts, which means that the readiness is not about the implementation straight away. It's about in terms of these people taking a pilot in terms of moving forward, might be a week stint together and then launch themselves. Like how a good example could be how the Indian cricket team assembled for a test match. They assembled some 1 week before, or look at the pitch, look at the ground, look at the atmosphere where the ball is swinging, the ball is going to spin. But we replicate it down into this in terms of collaborative atmosphere. Okay, this guy doesn't open up, this guy is good, this guy talks too much, this guy is extremely good, this guy is brilliant, this guy doesn't have knowledge. Just make a nice, beautiful composition, put the right people in the right place. I'm sure that any collaboration will succeed. And that's what the word I mentioned as win. And I'm sure win doesn't happen on the first day, but win always happens progressively. Because the more you're going to start beautifully, if your planning and strategy is good, the environment is fantastic, the infrastructure given is perfect, and the validation towards people having an open mind to talk about transparently being honest. Remember, the credibility and integrity part sounds good. Nothing is difficult in this world, and collaboration is just about an English word. That's what I see.
Very well said, sir. And the theme that you have told, the main thing is the environment. If you're not creating, or if the businesses are not creating the environment that employees like to work, then we might not be seeing collaboration over there. And recently, if you see a trend which is going on right now, that major MNC companies, they are laying off people. And this is how our environments are getting shattered, or people are not feeling safe to work in the MNCs. So how do this MNC, or what is the major reason why we are seeing layoffs, and how can we become more safer in working in those businesses?
That's a very difficult question to answer. That's a brilliant question from your side. Once again, it's going to be a lot of thought process from my side. And I need to be very honest to tell you. And if I don't take sides here, I strongly feel companies go overboard. Probably if I take the situation, let's take it 2 years back or 2.5 years back when the pandemic sets in. The first 3 4 months of the pandemic, everybody were a bit light, taking it granted. And the moment the pandemic started showing its real colors in terms of the pain and the problems that it started creating, people got really worried. My God, what is going to happen here? I'm going to die. You're going to die. You're going to face. It's sort of a taboo. If somebody like in Saldana hears, hey, Madhavan has got COVID, then you won't even see my face. That's a taboo it became. So removing this taboo is not easy. And the worst part is after almost close to 15, 16 months, the second wave was like absolutely colossal in terms of the pains it created on people, and with oxygen shortages, with so much of problems. So look at all this. Where I'm coming to now is first one is about not aware of the magnitude of the problem. First is the magnitude of the problem. Let's take it very clear here. The second is the infrastructure that needed. If I say infrastructure is needed, yes, they all tried and developed it over a period of 1 year, starting somewhere about June 2020, June 2021 only was time when the actual COVID injections were ready, the vaccines were ready. So it took 1 year. Obviously, see, the mutation takes that much of time. But if you look at once again the infrastructure planning, so nobody can predict how the COVID is going to display or behave, or how rude it's going to be in terms of the public. But effectively, the first one, I said the magnitude of the problem. Second, the readiness to tackle. And third, does the infrastructure really satisfy towards meeting all these complications or problems? And it really took a big hit on the ground of the health, on the public, on the government, especially during April, May in 2021. I think 2021, yes, Pakka. It was terribly bad. The colossal loss of life, the fear, shattered. Everybody was shattered. Not in the first wave, the second wave. See, this is a learning that everybody has to have. A company, when they are trying to expand, many of them did, especially in the space of IT, when people have started working from home, when the projects were coming more, and the collaboration was much high needed, because when you're not going to see face to face, it's all the more important how well you manage the emotions of people. When I'm talking here, you see a lot of emotions. If I'm not going to talk with emotions, it's going to be blind, blurred, and people will hardly listen to me. It's important that the magnitude of the problem has to be understood at every stage. I very strongly felt that the planning went average. People said, okay, if I'm going to get this much of business, which needs 10,000 people, oh, the same business is going to go at 40% over next 2 years. Let me try and pack people, because ultimately resources, skill are not just about you go and buy a product of some juice in the market. It's about certain readiness, and they have to deploy it, they have to find it, they have to get ready. Might be as training, might be in terms of sourcing from outside. When they want to source it from a big place, it's going to be expensive, basically, because the higher the institute, the higher the expense in terms of acquiring a person. So the magnitude of the problem was not understood, which means planning went wrong, strategizing in terms of was overboard. Like it's typical any business in terms of being too positive. Like I'm getting this much of growth. Well, let's try and take it forward. So I'm going to get this. I'm going to do this. We don't blame them. But the point of contention, what I'm trying to say is it's also imperative to understand that you at that size of the company, you don't plan it for an immediate situation, but you plan for a 5-year period. I'm going to take these guys. Yes, tomorrow, the worst case of the pandemic is over. I'm not need this because companies obviously coming out of the pandemic also will not invest in everything. Probably somebody invested in training. So there are some 20,000 trainers. Suddenly you say this, now the companies are all going on digital. So I don't want the trainers who want to do it. Let me take it off. So once again, you are wrong in terms of putting the right people in the right place. You're putting the wrong person in the right place. So these mismatches has created this. Now, when the business is going down, they're getting into pressure, and that's why they're trying to lay off. I very honestly, I'll give a beautiful example here. This is a story which is from one of the very good authors. I do not name the names here because I don't take any names here. One of the very great authors of from the US. He's in UK citizen, but he is from US. He writes a lot of books also. He related a story where this is a company, which is a white collar company, and they have manufacturing, sales, everything put together, close to some 7,000 people. So during the recession period in 2008, we had a major recession in 2008 and 2009. This particular company in USA, when many companies were laying off people, this company never laid off people. The board very clearly told the CEO and the MD saying that, boss, how many people you get out so that we can neutralize our profits or probably balance our sheets. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. Then they said, what is this? You can't do that. He said very clearly, please understand here that the same people contributed. How can I suddenly send them off? Tomorrow, the whole difficult period can get over. We can't get the same people. But what he did was, he said, don't worry, we'll balance it. The next 6 months or 1 year, I'll have a plan. And he called the entire staff at the macro level, discussed there with them, and percolated down to the microest of level to give the confidence to people that you're going to be with me. But what he did was, he told people to take 3 weeks of not without leave, without paid leave. Like you take three weeks of leave, but you're not paid for it. And he told people that minimum is 3 weeks, maximum is 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And he told the entire company, you can internally trade with somebody, like somebody wants income. Let's okay, let me take 3 weeks. Somebody wants, okay, I can still manage with 5 weeks of salary. Trade it. So by this, he was able to get it down to the lowest level of attrition at that time, and nobody was laid off. And I can tell you the information goes like this, where many people tried to get from this company, the employees, they were not willing to move on because difficult time comes, they hug those people, they say, don't go out. We are taking care. That's very important. I'm nobody to talk about in terms of say people could have retained it because ultimately the balance sheets, they know pretty well, they know what they're doing. The demand is there, you can't keep a person. But tomorrow, if the demand comes, you want to get the same person, they will do that also. 10,000 people go after 1 year, they'll pick up the 5,000 people out of it, 2,500, because certain industries just have the facilitation where they don't bother calling the same people who work to have. There are some industries who, when they lay off the people or when they send the people out, when the person resigns, they don't take it back. So it's a very tricky situation. I will say more of saving their skin first rather than anything else. If I'm not going to be rude here and using the word saving the skin, but if I had to be open enough to admit, I would have been very happy if they could have balanced it much more and really found out the best platform for these people. Because you have developed the resources, you have given them the skill, they have the skill, and beautifully have planned it. And why destroy the morale of the people? It's a difficult situation. Probably sitting from the outside, say, I always believe that sitting on the other side of the grass, pretty well that side the grass is green. So probably you don't know their situation. You have to understand it much better. This is my perspective in terms of the question what you asked me.
Yeah, that's again, like the point was really accurate, and the things that you have mentioned, the current trend is seeing in that way itself. Because of the pandemic, the companies have initially hired a lot of people, and later on, they do not have the requirement right now, and that is why we see the layoff that is happening. And if you see the giant tech companies right now, they are going in terms of softwares, and we're changing our collaboration perspective as well. Before it was face-to-face collaboration, or it would be a group meetings, but right now on video conferences or calls and some other things. So, what kind of changes are we seeing in collaborations in the industries?
That's a brilliant question. Yeah. My God, you're asking me question after question is making me really think. That's a beautiful question, Saldana. Hats off to you. First, my appreciation for you. Thank you so much. See, first and foremost, I'm a big fan of emotional quotient. What is the emotional quotient? I am sitting in front of you, you're sitting in front of me. When you asked a question, I said that's a brilliant question. And you definitely had a smile, which means you felt, oh, somebody's patting my back. Emotional quotient is extremely important when you try and talk to people. Forced virtual meetings during the pandemic is more towards safeguarding the interest of the company, keep the staff safe so they don't get infected with the COVID. So that's why people are using the virtual mode. If you ask me still, a balance should be where if there is a critical meeting, like somebody like a planning and strategy, it's critical that people meet face to face. As somebody could be a review, which could be a weekly review, might be a 10 days review, it's fine, virtual. But a critical meeting of once in a month in terms of the action plan, what you've done, what is that you've solved, what is the issue that you resolved for the person, is the conflict being managed or resolved? I'm using a very simple word here, managed or resolved. I'll explain this. So these are the critical meetings where when you meet in a month, once in a month in terms of face to face, the emotions are shared, the treasures, the feelings of happiness. You try and talk about certain small personal status in terms of your family, my family, the exchanges of pleasantries, move forward in the business, we plan well and look forward in terms of the difficult areas. It's very important now that we need to balance in terms of when you're going to call people for those meetings directly and when you're going to have it virtually. My strong feeling is it's very important that it's a mix should be, might be not a critical meeting, good idea to have it virtual. Might be a follow-up meetings, a stand-up meeting every day. These companies do it in terms of getting those updates and all this stuff. But when you're going to look at in terms of something like an announcement, some new product launches, planning in terms of next 3 months, I don't think those things can be done. It's a good idea one way that technology should be understood by everybody because if you really asked technology, that's amazing. And I want to share this very small thing to you. I was part of a session the other day where I'm part of a community in terms of teachers and people who are those big time intellectuals. Uh, how much technology today eases out in terms of content making, in terms of facilitating, in terms of going deep dive rather than you going and researching all this. It's a materialistic point that when I can spend some 5 6 hours in terms of getting those contents, somebody as a technology can aid me with those datas. My energy can go much more in terms of preparing, in terms of delivering those contents beautifully to people like you sitting opposite me being the corporate trainer. So in a way, technology is very important, but I feel it should not be forced upon. That people should be encouraged to learn, and not everybody is comfortable even now today on technology. But as you said in terms of the virtual meeting, once again to square up on the question, it's important the balance is given in terms of the criticality of the meeting, the information which is required, and the information when it is required directly. The most important is very, 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 very imperative that people meet at least in these levels, at least the top management, the middle management, and the higher management once in a month phase. It irons out a lot of problems, a lot of conflicts which could have been managed. I just said I'll explain you the manage and the uh, resolution. Conflicts is something which is a day in, day out affair. You be it at home, be it in society, you move in the bus, you move in the train, you move in the metro. A person who can manage a conflict is trying to sustain. That's not the answer. But certain times when your dependency is much higher and multiple people and so many people, there is no other way but to manage the conflict. But it's extremely important that you try and resolute or look for resolution on conflict because that's where you're getting a decision in terms of not going back onto the conflict and two people. And very critical point for a collaborator. And incidentally, my book has got a lot of information on this conflicts and community.
Yes, sir. The resolution of conflict is one of the important thing. And in many businesses, what they do is sometimes, okay, if they see a problem, they might not go and resolve it, or they might delay the problem. And that delayed problem is going to cause even more trouble to the company and in other activities. So those are some of the important things that you have told regarding how we are able to collaborate. While coming to the people in the organization, there are two things that determine those people and how they are improving in their skills. One thing is regarding their culture towards the organization, and next thing is regarding the productivity and the things that they're doing. So how can an employee have a balance of good culture in the organization as well as delivering the outcome the higher level managements are requiring from his side?
Fantastic. This is something which is really going deep into a lot of companies now, cultural part, because businesses in India are probably like, suppose one country used to be one country business, except that multinational company comes into India. But once again, localizes the whole product. I worked in multinational predominantly. I know this. culturally, when somebody comes for him to understand a market in India is very difficult. But if you have an Indian person doing the Indian market, cultural understand, because India is a very diversified country, lots of what forms culture? There are predominance of culture is language. And when language is missing in terms of this, how do you communicate? And if you don't communicate, how do you take it forward? So when I'm going to tell something I don't have a communication, I'm part of a state where that's not my local language, that's not my mother tongue. How do I manage this? So first and foremost is collaboration needs communication ability. And in collaboration, the communication is very important, the style that is followed. And you talk to a person who's a senior, the guy's got 20 years of experience, who's managing all the teams put together. And he has never not worked, but for the 1 month he's been there with them for collaboration. This man, the guy is going to demand a work, and the tone is red. Also, this guy is very aggressive. You and me will not like to hear somebody is aggressive, even though it's for the business sake. And take it from me. The moment the aggression goes, I talked about these people who are those 2-3 years in terms of people having the same team. Those guys will get into those complete passive mode. He will not open his mouth. He'll become ultra introvert. Already the guy is subdued. He doesn't open. He's fearing. He's scared. Go further down deep. On top of it, there's another character which I would not like to even discuss more than just say it a few words. Something called passive aggressive, where could be this manager who's 20 years plus years. He goes and talks about to another man saying, hey, what is this guy? Yeah? He's not able to understand this. He doesn't want to show the aggression directly, but he sends it through a via media, which means that he's passive to the target, but he's aggressive indirectly to that person, to another person. Extremely damaging. That's another style. And the last and best style was assertive. You completely give space for the other person. You enjoy, you empathize. What is empathy? You put yourself in the shoes of the other person. You try and give them the freedom. You try and understand. You try and take them forward. You completely read their mind. Spend time with them. All this in a corporate life can be assertive. The best part of an answer for this question is assertive communication is the way out. Culture will always have an issue in any team, but it's important that culturals are promoted inside the team. The reason is that could be multiple get-togethers, might be a dinner meeting, might be somewhere a cultural in terms of evaluating people's ability in terms of communicating. Might be somebody could present it, somebody could talk it. Might be a good lunch hour where strictly people are told not to discuss anything in the office space, but completely talk about their family, talk about their festivals. From there, they come. Probably somebody sitting next to me could be from Nagaland. Somebody sitting next to me could be from West Bengal. Probably, if I say I like, he says, oh, if he eating dahi, he says, oh, this is curd. Whereas for him, it is dahi. And in dahi, in West Bengal, there is something which is so ritualistic and so beautiful. They love it, mishti dahi. Something everybody likes it. So you see the cultural part, whereas instantly I go to West Bengal, I crave for the mishti dahi. Might be somebody coming from that side, might be craving for the food that is available here. So cultural differences, if it's sorted out over a period of time, it's more of the acceptance. And hats off today to the country. We are beautifully, I think as good as 70-80%. The metros and the top cities today are absolutely cosmopolitan. There is no problem in terms of culture, and people are willing to talk the other language, willing to learn the other language. When the culture aspect of the communication is addressed so well, productivity issues are more to do with the skill rather than in terms of communication. Because communication gap will not come, but productivity. Because if communication gap is going to happen, absolutely productivity will take a beating. Because what you're trying to talk to me, if I don't understand, how will I do my job? How will I perform in my job? How will I discuss with you? How will I tell my problems? How will I try and bring the conflict to you? But if communication is understood, the language spoken is easy. I'm telling you, productivity will never take a beating. It can fluctuate between people. See, ultimately, my ability and your ability are different. That's why the management has to have the ability to specify people. Anywhere, there are 5 buckets only in people forming a team. Somebody could be brilliant, somebody could be very good, somebody could be good, somebody could be average, somebody could be absolutely on the lowest in terms of the band. So how the management understands this and brings it out in terms of culturally linking people and productivity based in terms of understanding the whole issue. Productivity is highly based in terms of what the person understands.
Yes, that's brilliant.
It's not a skill issue. It's not a skill issue completely.
Okay. So those are the things that we have to keep in mind while coming in terms of collaboration. And the points that you have told from the first question till the right now as well. So they were on point itself. So we have not deviated much. and we have kept it crisp as well. And people, I think so, the listeners have got a lot of value from your knowledge from of your past experiences. So we had a really great session regarding collaborations and how we can win in organizations if we're able to collaborate with each other. So thank you, sir, for your valuable information and sharing your experiences. And we also wish a successful launch of your book in the coming months.
Thank you so much. And am I allowed to tell the book live going date? Is it fine here?
Yeah, sure, sir. You can go on.
Okay. So my book is going to be live on 14th May. It's going to be live on 14th May.
Yeah.
Just want to bring that to notice of
Yeah. Sure, sir. So if you want to know more about collaboration and how we can win in the organization, tune into 14th May and you can purchase Sir's book, and from there you can learn a lot of insights from his own experiences. So again, sir, thank you very much for your time and giving us the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Saldana. It's my privilege and pleasure to talk about my book, and the questions that you asked were absolutely very intriguing. And a person with this much of experience, I had to pull up all my experience to answer those questions. Credit goes to you for bringing out the best in me today. Thanks to the audience is going to view this, and please do encourage in terms of buying the book and making it a great success, so that it's going to be very useful for all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Saldana. Bye bye.